Hey friends, Pastor Bob here. This is the first of what I want to do for at least the next few weeks in the midst of this coronavirus outbreak, is I want to do a daily briefing. Rather than sending you just a weekly video, things are changing so fast, and our response as a church is needing to change so fast, and the pastoral issues are changing so fast, that I just want to communicate with you on a daily basis, at least Monday through Thursday. So this is the first of that. This one will probably be a little bit longer because I've got some more things to share with you. But generally, we're going to try to keep these to 3 to 4 minutes just to give you a snapshot of what's happening. So I want to generally talk about 3 things. 1, current reality. 2, some perspective on current reality. And then 3, ministry in the midst of current reality. All right? So let's talk first of all about current reality. In the state of Nebraska right now, 18 confirmed cases of coronavirus. Obviously, the concern that most health professionals have is that there's probably a lot more people that are carrying the virus and just aren't showing symptoms, and so that's the concern. You should also know that in our state there are 170 people who have tested negative. That's really good news. What that means is that they had symptoms that were similar to COVID-19 and they went and got tested and it turned out they didn't have it. So that's a really good ray of sunshine in the midst of some of the concern we have right now. I hope that encourages you. Nationally, there's about 4,500 cases of confirmed coronavirus and 95 deaths. Again, concerning, and reasons why that's of concern, but we've been here before. If you remember me saying on Sunday, in 2010, 60 million people contracted the H1N1 virus. There were 275,000 hospitalizations and 12,000 deaths. And our medical system handled all of that, and we handle all of that as a people. So though there's reason for concern with this coronavirus thing, I want you to be confident, hey, we've been through things like this before. Now, obviously what we have to remember, and I'm going to say some things here that you're probably hearing all over the news, but it's just good for you to hear them again. The thing that the medical community wants us to embrace, and the reason we're sort of doing all these really aggressive social distancing, shut down your life for a couple weeks kinds of things, is because the goal here is that the rate of infections would grow slowly enough that we can actually provide adequate medical care for everyone who needs it. The concern with a virus like this, especially what you have to remember about this one, is that there's no vaccine for it yet, and we're probably 12 to 18 months out from having a vaccine. And so there's really no way to treat it other than just to care for people until they get over it. So the concern is if a whole bunch of people get sick all at the same time, it will overwhelm our capacity to care for them all. That's obviously not a concern for you personally because you might not feel like you're going to get sick, but it's a concern. We live in a society together that we care about everyone and the medical needs that everyone's going to have. And so we're embracing all these social distancing measures to try to slow the growth of the virus and make sure that we can adequately care for everyone. So that's current reality. I want to remind you of that. That's what we're trying to do. The concern probably isn't that you're going to get this. I actually think probably from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of people who have it and just aren't showing symptoms. And B, if you're a relatively healthy person, it's probably not going to be that bad for you. The concern is that you might carry it and spread it to others and that it would get to vulnerable people who it's going to cause great significant problems for. So we want that growth to be slow so that we can take care of everyone as needed. So that's what we're committed to as a society. Now, obviously, there's a lot of national concern right now, and for good reason. But again, embrace as a Christian, hey, we've been here before. We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And part of the things we're doing is getting aggressive right now so that we can hopefully see some change here in the next 3 to 4 weeks in terms of how this is affecting our society. Now, let me give some perspective, okay? Here's the perspective I want to give you on current reality. Remember in this moment not to believe everything you hear, and not to succumb to everything that you're seeing out there, especially on social media. And there's a lot of people sharing a lot of things that oftentimes aren't very reliable. I'll give you one simple example of that. On Sunday, on Twitter, a medical doctor from Seattle shared and attempted to show that all of the ICU beds in Seattle were spoken for, that there was no more intensive care space in the whole city of Seattle. A professor from the University of Washington thought that sounded strange based on his understanding of things. And so he started pressing for more clarity on Twitter and saying, hey, can you tell me where you got this report? Is this verified? Has anyone actually done the homework here? It turns out that though that was a medical doctor who posted that, they were posting an unverified rumor from someone else's social media feed. So you see that's how dangerous these moments are, is that misinformation can get out there that sounds like it's coming from reliable people, but it's not credibly sourced and it's not verified. It turns out there are actually still hospital beds available in Seattle. And that's important because Seattle's a place where this has been pretty bad, right? So be sure that you are depending on reliable information and that you're not sharing randomly stuff that you see and hear. Try to go to verified sources. That's why every time I send something to you, I'm trying to point you to the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, the University of Nebraska Medical Center, reputable journalists, people who have verifiable information. It's important for us to try to think clearly in a moment like this and only share information that's valid and reliable. So that's a little bit of perspective. The other piece of perspective I want to give you on current reality is just to say, remember that we're not Italy and we're not Spain and we're not Iran. I know those are the places that the media is sort of looking right now and saying, oh, is it going to get bad here like it is in Italy? Look, there's certainly a chance that it will. There's always a chance that things will be worse than we think. But I want to remind you, the population density in Italy is much greater, and they had a much slower response. And so I have confidence that we're going to be okay and that our response as a country right now is going to be adequate to sort of slow the growth and keep things in perspective here. So just try to make sure that you're not fretting because of things that are going on in places where we don't live and we actually have no control over what happens there. We have to care about where we are and be citizens of the city, the state, and the country that we live in and deal with what's happening here, okay? Now let me talk to you about ministry in the current reality, because this is the thing you're actually wondering about, is like, hey, how does this affect our life as a church? It's literally changed the last 3 days every single day because the guidance keeps changing. So what we've heard most recently, and the reason your life has sort of changed in the last day or two, is because for the next 14 days or 13 days now, the government has asked us to limit gatherings to 10 people or less. So that means no worship on Sundays and probably no gospel community gatherings. So that just limits what we can do as a church. Our hope is that a couple weeks from now, those will get relaxed a little bit and we can start gathering together as gospel communities. That will be the first step we'll take as a church is, hey, let's gather as gospel communities, because we imagine that will be quicker than our freedom to gather again in worship. Okay, so again, we want to embrace the measures we need to for public health right now and trust the Lord to get us back to being together as quickly as possible. What we are going to do as a church in the next few weeks, we are not going to live stream our services. That's not what we're going to choose to do. We are going to record a video sermon, and we're going to provide you liturgy resources so that whether it's with your family, with your roommates, with a few friends, you can gather on a Sunday, watch a sermon, worship the Lord, pray, sing together, walk through a liturgy of worship. That's how we are going to choose to sort of worship together as a church in this season where we're dispersed and sort of isolated from one another. So I want to encourage you to enjoy that, use it. I know it's a season that's unusual for us. It doesn't feel great. I don't like it. You probably don't like it. It's where we are. Let's make the most of it as we can, and let's use these opportunities to pray for one another and to trust the Lord to get us through this quickly, and to build new rhythms in our own families and in our own households. All right. So we'll provide those resources to you on Friday or Saturday so that on Sunday morning you can worship wherever you are with whoever you're with. And since we can still gather up to 10 people, if you feel comfortable doing so, you can invite a couple friends over, gather a few people in your living room. That's a good thing to do if you feel confident doing that. We'd love to see that happen. But again, we just want to make it possible for you to worship wherever you happen to be on Sunday morning and whoever you happen to be with. So the only other thing I'll say in this briefing, I know it's getting a little long, I'm trying to keep the video short, is I just want to say this. The building and the staff are still here. So we're still practicing sort of a normal rhythm in our workplace. And what that means is if you need counsel, if you need prayer, if you just need to talk with a pastor, if there's a way we can serve or help you, you're welcome to stop by. You're welcome to call. We want to be available to you. We know that we can't gather together in a large setting for worship, but there's still a need for care and counseling. And so we want to still be available to you pastorally. And so we're here. So you reach out and let us know what you need, how we can serve you, what your spiritual needs are. Keep in mind that, men, this is an isolating time for people. So we're going to feel that. Maybe you feel that. If we can just pray for you, spend 5 or 10 minutes just talking with you. Again, this is a building where it's safe to do that, and where, as long as we're not gathering a bunch of people, it's a safe place to be. And so you're welcome to drop in for some counsel or some prayer as you need to. All right. Thanks for watching. I love you guys, and I'll give you another briefing tomorrow around lunchtime.